You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
So how have you been, Bob?
I've been well, thank you.
Good.
Yeah. So what are we going to talk about? My new book?
Franciscanism, right?
Yes, Franciscanism, the answer to modernism.
Ooh.
Huh?
Now that sounds good.
Now, I mean, I know you know me well and all, but when I was 12 years old, first of all, starting at the beginning, not creation, but the beginning.
You're
my
fun,
grandma, my saintly Italian grandmother always talked about the Franciscans, and I developed a strong attachment. And Saint Anthony of Padua is my patron saint. Okay, so then around my age 12, I realized personally that success in my life was going to be through words, not numbers. Okay. So thus the writing came to being. I took a course with the famous writer school in Westport, Connecticut, but I also taught English too, English grammar. So that was all very familiar. And then, of course, I got a master's in sociology and taught that. But I got a master's in counseling too. When I got my master's in counseling, so many things changed for me. The vocabulary, was totally different.
Sure.
And very concise, I might add. And all of that influenced me. So when I started to write this book, different aspects of my life, the different nuances, came in different parts of the book. Okay, I just want to give you an idea. One of the things that always interests me is words are frozen reality. Words are frozen reality. You know, is that a great line?
That is, and it's pretty accurate too.
Right, and so words are meaningful. Obviously, people have been killed over words too, you know, but words are meaningful. Also, John Rowland, who used to be governor of Connecticut at one point in time, he came out and said he's a politician now. He's not a philosopher or anything. He said, "We are all in recovery." You know, that's something to think about. We are all in recovery. And so the main tenet of my book is that we've lost sight of, and by the way, also, Jesus is the Word of God.
Right.
Okay? That's very special. We've lost sight of our journey, our path, because we've allowed consumerism, materialism, etc., to grab our attention and cause us to go outside of ourselves for enjoyment and stimulation rather than going within ourselves, which is what Christ was talking about. You know, the journey of life is within. Okay? And that's what Francis keeps talking about, you know, the real journey of life. And so I see those two things, Franciscanism and modernism, as really diametrically opposed. Okay?
I can see that.
All right. Stop me if you have any questions. It's anytime.
I will. Oh, don't worry. You should come say that. Question.
I wanted to give your alter ego a chance to get in there.
Oh,
so
okay.
So I talk about. I just find Francis so interesting, you know, because he came. I don't know. Have you read a lot about him?
Yeah.
You have. Okay.
Yeah.
So he came from wealth, and then he renounced it all. and he was a very simple man, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we visited Assisi, and they had his garments up on the wall in the cathedral, and you can see he was like looking at Emily Dickinson. We went to visit her place in Amherst, and there's this little kid's bed there. You know, and that's where she slept. She wasn't too tall, so that reminded me. So he wasn't. He was a small man, but a very simple man, and he, he's called the other Christ in life, and because he had one foot in heaven and one foot on this earth, Um, and then, of course, Claire came along, who was his support and confidant. And also, which really interests me, is this Lady Poverty.
Oh, yes.
Okay, which to me is it's a mystical form. Okay, and Lady Poverty is not about poverty per se, but the spirit of poverty. And that's a whole nother issue, And I think we could use a whole lot of that today, all right, to change the world,
It would.
And so we have, and the other thing that really gets me, and I talk about this in the book, is this whole AI thing coming. And I could see whatever new thing comes along, the wrong people will get hold of it and use it the way they want to use it, And I see a whole lot of problems down the road. And I think people have to, again, mentally go into recovery as far as their Christian beliefs are concerned, get back to basics. I think that's the only thing that can really save us, And you also have Francis and his great interest in the incarnation, that Christ was sent by God the Father, and he came on this earth. He didn't go to Mars, and he didn't go to Saturn, all these diversions that we see. Or he didn't get on a spaceship, but he came to this earth and to save us. And these are they're fundamental ideas which have tremendous implications for us, But the average person today just doesn't have a concept. When John Kennedy was told about the Catholic faith, even though he was raised in it and his mother was religious, he said, "Gee," he says, "what a great idea." It's like he never really understood it before. And here he was, right, from a Catholic family, So Francis, to me, is the person who was put on this earth to bring us all back to Christ. Okay? And we all need that. Okay? Because as you know, the only way we're going to get to heaven is when we're perfect. Okay? Be it now or in purgatory. Okay?
Well, for the overwhelming majority of us, it's going to be in purgatory.
Right. That's right. Yeah. But at least if you're in purgatory, you got a shot at it, right?
Well, you will eventually.
Yeah. You have other questions about this, or I'm happy to go over this with you.
I think it's interesting, especially when you bring up purgatory, because I think most people, Catholics hopefully believe it, but I think that most people in general just think of heaven and hell,
That's right.
And people are all sure they're going to heaven. And it's like, You ever hear of the Ten Commandments? You know,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I think when I look as a sociologist, which I was originally,
Yes.
look around, as were you, as you look around the world, or especially in this country where we are,
Mhm.
it's like people have no sense that this is not the forever place.
That's correct.
Here, and what you've done here is going to determine where you go. But I don't know how many people actually think that. Even people that know it often just say, well, I'll take care of it, in 10 years, just before I die or
Yeah,
something.
right.
Then they get hit by a car.
Right. No, I've had friends I have a close friend of mine who died on a couch. He was sleeping in the afternoon. He just died.
Wow.
I mean, none of us can,
Yeah.
none of us have a handle on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because we talk about it. But it's like as Catholics, we believe it, but
Yeah.
I think the majority of people don't believe it, like it's going to happen to them.
Right.
Like something that exists, but they'll shoot right up to heaven.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't realize how necessary purgatory is, because if you're going to deal with God who is pure, you can't go there with sin on your soul and everything, I mean, that just makes sense. But no, people don't want to confront that.
Yeah. Well, it's like the example I like to use to people is, if you live in a high class neighborhood, you don't want, a whole bunch of drug addicts showing up and living there.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like, although God wants all of us there, you can't get in if you have all of this weight of sin and, bad habits, all of those things.
I know.
So, yeah.
And that's why I go back to John Rowland. We are all in recovery, We have to recover the pureness of our soul when we were born, in order to gain heaven. That puts a lot of responsibility on people to acknowledge it, first of all, and then to do something about it, Yeah.
Well, also to believe it, because I don't, people use the word soul, but I think what they're thinking of is just, their interior spirit life, it's like, you can plan, it's all that sort of thing that is not physical. But I don't think that they really get the concept, or the reality, I should say, but the concept of the reality of the soul.
No, they don't. No.
Yeah. I have a soul, how's your soul, whatever, but if people really took it seriously, you wouldn't be able to get into the Catholic Church to get to confession because there'd be so many people ahead of you.
You're right.
And
You're right.
after all, you can walk in there, you can take a nap. I mean, it's like,
You're right.
It's like, folks, where are you? And, so I think that's a really serious problem that needs to be, we need to have more teaching on this from the pulpit. For people like us, we know a lot about it, but for the average Catholic, I don't think so.
We also, at least in America, we've been bought off with, I got to feel good. It's got to be joyful, I mean, well, if that's true, then you wouldn't have Lent in the church, right? Or you wouldn't, you wouldn't have the Passion in the church. Yeah. So it's much, much broader than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to think about Teresa of Calcutta, Calcutta, and all the depression she had and so forth. Yes, she persevered, It's amazing stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing, perseverance, and that's another thing that people should think about.
Right.
like you persevere. You persevere. I mispronounced that twice.
I won't tell anybody.
I just did. On that.
Well, you persevered in saying persevere, right?
I got it right. But anyway, yeah. So, when you think of it, you need to, it's like you learn how to do something. This is an analogy, but, you learn how to do something. And the only way you do is by sticking to it and just keep trying. And if you fall down, you start again.
Right.
You pick yourself up and you start again. Of course, in this case, we're lucky because we don't have to pick ourselves up, because all we have to do is go to confession and God raises us up.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing. I don't think, people will go to confession, although not many, to tell you the truth.
Not enough, right?
No. Yeah, I mean, when I go, I never have trouble getting in the. I'm usually the first or second. Well, that's for this week, Father. There's, because people just don't go that much.
I know.
They have to know that doesn't mean that just because you've been forgiven that whatever habit you had or whatever problem you've had or whatever you've done, that's not gone just because you went.
No.
You've got to make sure you
stay.
There
is that residue, isn't there?
Yeah. Yep. And you have to stay away from it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like an alcoholic who has been sober for a week or two. It's like, oh, I'm all set. Go into a bar, and the next thing you know, they're drunk on the floor again.
Right.
So.
And to expand that, all the other addictions that are out there, Yeah, and I'm sure that those addictions would be minimal if we went the path of Francis, Oh,
of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I think of the habits that cause people problems, I think the one I think of most often, not I personally think of it, but that I am aware of, is sex. Because in this country, it's like a consumer activity.
Right.
Like when I was young, I can remember friends who had 5, 6, 7, 8 boyfriends. They just go through them.
Right.
And and I mean, I was telling Bill's grandchildren, because now that I've been married twice and widowed twice, and I said, I'm done with men. And, it's like I'm 73 years old. I expect to live the rest of my life out with my Angora cat.
Right. There you go.
First, I'll just get another one. I hope I didn't just scare you. The beauty.
Oh, how cute.
Oh, she is.
Beautiful.
Yes, she is beautiful.
Beautiful.
But it's like, I have absolutely no desire to start or to be involved in another relationship.
Right.
It's like, for one thing, with my luck, the third guy would die. And I've had enough of that, okay? But no, seriously, it's like, how can you commit? How can you find 3 men that you can commit to? I mean, that's 2 I can understand, because someone dies, you pick up and you go on. And I was still fairly young, but at 73, it's like, nah. Nah.
You're through rolling the dice, huh? Right?
Well, yeah, it's like, a commitment like that. I just don't think you can have too many if you have too many commitments like that, their value drops.
Yeah.
I mean, so the 2 men that I was married to, it's like, one died, I married, the second died. That's it. I'm just not, I just think that to do this again would just be
emotionally. It drains you emotionally.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. And why do that when you can survive on your own? And for the time being, anyway, eventually I'll probably end up in a nursing home or something. But for now, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
And who's to say that the next person you meet is going to be such a great guy?
Yeah.
I mean, so many people today put on a front, but there may be underlying issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I just also think that, that would just be a little weird, getting married, widowed, married, widowed, married.
Yeah.
And see what happens. That one will end either divorce or widowhood, right? It's like, nah, I'm not doing that again. But people look at you like, well, what are you going to do? Stay in the house alone? It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're afraid of that, especially in America. We got to have somebody by our side every minute,
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Siegel, the surgeon from New Haven, said, are we so busy exploring outer space because we're so afraid of our inner space?
That's an excellent. Oh,
Isn't that
excellent.
great?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't really have an inner life that much anymore. I don't think they're thought enough about it. I mean, certainly some do, but the idea like of a daily examination of conscience.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone under 30 use those words.
Yes. Right. Especially the word conscience.
Yeah.
I read a great line the other day. It said, there are times when utopia can become a gulag.
That's that whole thing. Dystopia. The dystopia. Yeah. They can turn out that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to prize the person we married and are with for as long as we have them, realizing they were sent to us by God for a sacramental union,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think also, one of the things that we don't really address, probably it's part of this inward thing that most people avoid. We really don't know very much about death. It's like we know we die. We know the people we are with are eventually going to die. But the thing is, I think very few people have been up close and personal to it.
Right.
Unless they're in the medical profession or a cop, something like that, where they're, God bless them, when they're dealing with all of these problems. But, both of my husbands died. I held both of them when they died.
Wow.
It was like, my first husband had esophageal cancer, and he bled out, from my understanding is his aorta was, I guess, eaten through by the cancer.
Yeah.
And his heart kept beating. So he literally
bled out. Yeah.
Blood out of it. And, to me, it was really just a little bit traumatic. But, so I was holding him. But, God gave me a really good gift, because I felt like, I know it didn't happen this way, but I felt as if God had walked through the room and taken him with him. And in the sense that he didn't end, he went somewhere else.
Right.
I had such a powerful sense of that it took a lot of the fear of death out of me.
Yes.
Because I could see, it's like, okay, this is not, all right, we're no longer, it's like, we're just no longer here. Hopefully we're going to the right place. but anyway, so it's, it made me realize that when the church talks about from the moment of conception through natural death, we don't end even at natural death. We just go on,
That's true.
So, and I thought that really it was a lesson I learned in one of the most painful moments of my life.
Absolutely.
The only good thing I can say about his death is that it was quick. I mean, when he actually was doing the dying, it doesn't take long to bleed to death.
No.
Things I know that no one else wants. Yeah, let me tell you. I mean,
what a comfort to have to know.
Yeah.
What a comfort to know, to believe that there is life after life.
Oh, I
what
knew
a comfort.
But I'll tell you, someday I'm going to sit at a coffee club or something. I'm going to say, it doesn't take very long to bleed to death. And that will be the end of that coffee.
You bring a bottle of ketchup with you to show them.
No, but anyway,
so funny.
It was a true gift at one of the worst moments of my life. And I fought for his life, I'll tell you. I found out he'd had a backache and he'd gone to the hospital, the emergency room, to see if they could help him. And they said, well, it's just your back again. I came home from the Vermont Quilt Show where I'd been when he went to the hospital. And when I got home, he was still bad. I took him to another emergency room and the doctor looked at me and he said, well, he's already been diagnosed. So why did you bring him here? I said, because I want other tests done on him. And he said, he's already been diagnosed. And I said, well, it's up to you if you want to be wrong about the diagnosis too.
I like that.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I said it mean. But anyway, so he said, okay, took an x-ray, came back, whole new attitude. He said, we've got to do a CAT scan. It looks like he's full of cancer.
Oh, my God.
Full of cancer. But anyway, so the gift there was certainly that he had the time, knowing that he was dying, to, he was a devout Catholic, but this enabled him to, do the real exam. And all of those things, and have the sacraments. And then he, as I said, when he died, my reward, I hate to think of it as a reward, but my reward for going through that with him was that I now know with absolute certainty there is life after this life.
Absolutely.
I mean, I believed it before, but there's a difference between belief and that kind of knowledge. Honestly, Bob, it was like God walked through the room and took him out of the room with him.
I believe that.
Knew he hadn't ended. He just went somewhere else.
Right.
And so, but I like to talk about those things to people because, people say, oh, well, so-and-so died. And it's like, well, they're in the ground now. That's the end of them. And it's like, no, so. Yeah. So I tell them that story.
We hold on to our human ways of looking at things, not acknowledging the heavenly way of looking at things,
Mm-hmm.
And the human ways are not going to give you any solace in the long run,
Yeah. Well, the same thing with my second husband. I don't want to make this into a morgue type thing.
Wait a minute, I gotta take more notes here. Okay.
But when my second husband, he was a very good man, very, very good man, but not religious. So I managed to get him back to the church. I managed to get him to go to church, go to mass. And, so, I mean, that was positive. And then he had a bad heart, and slowly I could see him deteriorating.
Yeah.
He'd have more trouble breathing, or I could hear him breathing. So he had 3 heart attacks in 5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the end of him, of course. So the first one, he said, well, we live about a mile and a half from the hospital. I could get him there faster than calling the ambulance, getting it, or so I said, come on, I'll take you to the hospital. And he was too weak to get down the stairs, so he sat down. And I walked over to him, and this is true.
Yeah.
I walked over to him. I put my arms under his arms. I arched my back so that I got him on top of me. I backed down the 2 stairs and got him in that car.
My
now,
God.
fortunately, I've heard of that before, but it's true.
You get a reserve of strength. Yeah.
Yeah, from somewhere.
Yeah.
I say from God. So I think God actually, what is that? What is the chemical that makes us be able to do that? I've heard it. It starts with an A, but I can't now. But anyway, that's also clearly in God's plan when he made us, that there are times, adrenaline.
Oh, adrenaline, sure.
Yeah. There are times when the adrenaline goes up. I got to the hospital, the adrenaline was gone. So I ran in. I was banging on the windows of the emergency room, and they did come. And I said, my husband's I think he's having a heart attack. I can't get him out of the car. So this guy came with a wheelchair and brought him in, and they took good care of him.
Yeah.
Then he went another time. He was, he ended up in Dartmouth. They took him by helicopter. That had a tremendous effect on my spiritual life because, I couldn't go with him. The helicopter has room for a patient.
Right.
Flying it and somebody behind there with the patient. So I live, as I said, a mile from the hospital. Every time I hear that helicopter, even if I'm in an interview, even if I'm teaching online, I say, I have to pray now. And I pray a Hail Mary for whoever helicopter.
Right.
Because God bless them. Seeing that thing goes over makes me want to cry.
Well, our middle son had a cavernous malformation in his blood vessel, and it blew on him.
Oh.
And we were in the hospital. He was totally comatose, and the helicopter was on the roof, and the nurse with the blue uniform was there, and they took him to Hartford Hospital. But it was one of the most disturbing incidents I've ever experienced, Yeah. Mm-hmm. He did live, and he's still alive today, but he lost the use of his right arm and right leg. So, but he's still alive,
Yes.
And I'm thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, you were able to literally escort both your husbands into heaven. I mean, I think that's a great accomplishment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he had another heart attack, and he was here at the Springfield Hospital. And then it was the third one that took him. They took him down to Hartford Hospital. There was not one cardiac bed in intensive care in anything, even Bay State, all the way down in Springfield. So he had to go to Hartford, and I was with him for a while, and then I had to leave because they were working on it. The next morning I went in, and we were very affectionate. So I said to him, I love you. He said the same thing to me. We kissed, we were talking, and he kept saying he was hot. And I think what it was is the defibrillator was starting to malfunction.
Oh.
So they made me leave because I was there too early. I had to come back at 9, I think, or 10. So I said, I'll be back. I'm just going to go for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Kissed again, told each other we loved each other. I came back in, and I was sitting there talking to him, and all of a sudden, nothing. I heard a little pop inside his chest, and then a flush came up over his face, and his eyes froze. So I ran and got the doctor. Actually screamed with the doctor. They did CPR on him for 35 minutes.
Wow.
And so finally, a doctor came out, a woman, and she said, if we're successful in bringing him back, he won't even know he's alive.
Really?
So, yeah. Well, he'd been without oxygen for so long.
Yeah, right.
So I went in and I I looked at the guy and I just said, stop. They did it for 35 minutes. He wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
So he died, but that was when I really got into the whole battle, because I am a wicked aggressive woman.
Wow, I wouldn't have known that. I'm glad you were able to tell me that and share that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, because it's like, if someone hurts someone in my family or doesn't do what they should, or doesn't do something even for an animal I own, it's like, I will fight. So I had asked them to call and get the priest.
Yeah.
And the chaplain was a priest, and there was also a woman. And I said, it has to be the priest. And so, of course, the woman came up. And I said, I appreciate you coming up. I know you're a good person, but I need a priest for the last rites. Well, the priest decided he was going to go on his day off, and told her that she could take care of it, even though he knew he needed the last rites. So I worked with the woman until she was able to find a priest. That poor priest, he had to be 95 years old.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. He shuffled up to the room. Of course, by then he had passed, but there was still warmth in his body, so some cells at least were there.
Yeah.
So he gave him the last rites. I walked him out. I left my husband and walked him out, because I thought, if I don't, he's going to fall down.
Oh, jeez.
My God. But look at that dedication. This is a man who's old, sick, weak. He came up there and he gave last rites to a man who was dying, because that's what he's supposed to do. The other guy, vacation. But anyway, so so he did get the last rites, and I raised a heck about that whole situation.
You should be very proud of both those situations. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm not actually. It's not that I'm proud of them. It's just that I think, how good God is.
Yeah.
He
gave you an opportunity. Yeah. He gave you an opportunity to say goodbye and everything. Yeah.
Yep. And, and I was saying to God, praying to God, it's like, please, I need a priest here. And sure enough, we got one. And he was a very nice man. He did a beautiful job. And I felt at peace, because I knew at least he had received the last rites. And even though he was now dead, if he had died without the last rites, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
I'm in a panic.
Right.
Yeah. So it was, they're all very good experiences. In a weird way. I mean, normally when you see two husbands die, they're not good experiences. But in this case, they were, because God was so present.
Yes.
And, when my parents died, God was not anywhere around.
Okay.
No, really.
Was that his vacation week or what?
I think it was. Yeah. But I mean, there was no experience like that.
No.
And with both of those men, it was like, the reassurance, the kindness of God to make sure that this poor old priest, was able to limp down the hall and get to my husband and give him the last rites while there was still some warmth in his body.
Right.
And so, that's wonderful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just talks about perseverance, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So God is really good, not even just until death, but during death and after death.
Yeah.
That's so it's something
I think death, when you think about it, is a very profound experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are watching somebody entering heaven, or on his way to heaven. I think it's very profound. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like when our first son was born, and I said to myself, my wife and I helped to create this child, it was profound,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
God gives us those insights on occasion.
Yeah.
It makes you realize, in heaven you must be overwhelmed with insights.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I can't marry again because I can't go through that again. I've had enough.
You better train your cat to take care of you. My wife we have a cat here. He loves my wife. Oh my God. He's a Maine Coon cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he is a charmer, I tell you.
Oh, they've got personalities.
They do. I find the male cats to be the best of all, because we had another male cat like them. They're so warm and loving.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This one is pretty good, but I got her out of the Animal Rescue League. She had been abused.
Oh.
So it took her a while to warm up to us. She was really Bill's cat more than mine.
Okay.
She went outside his closet after he was gone, and she, 2-3 days, 4 days later, she was looking around for him. You could see she'd go through the room. She'd go over to the closet and she'd cry.
Really?
Because I think she thought he was in there. So I opened the door and she ran in, and it was like, oh, she must have been able to smell his clothes or something.
Right. They do that, yeah.
But so now she's mine, and I treat her the best I can.
Yep.
Good girl.
Cats are great company. They're really attuned to us,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She sleeps when I'm on the couch. She sleeps next to me.
Yeah.
I'm, like right now, she's just here, sound asleep.
Yeah, I know. It's the same with my wife and her cat. He goes up to bed with her and sleeps right next to her,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they like that body heat too,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This cat, she was sleeping with me. And I have a water dish and a cat food dish at the bottom of the bed, on the floor. And I heard the two dishes hit each other. So I looked to see, and she was still next to me, and she looked at me. It's like, what's eating? It was a mouse.
Oh my God.
Oh,
did she go after the mouse?
She was so stunned. She was like, oh, food,
Oh no.
Mouse ran into the closet. And then, I went into the closet after it, and it ran out and got past her. I don't know what happened to it, but I don't know where it is anymore, so it's got to be dead.
Right.
But that was something to see. She couldn't believe her luck. She was like, wow, dinner.
Yeah. Well, my dear, I got to run.
All righty.
Okay. It's such a pleasure seeing you again and talking. Yeah. Okay. Peace.
All righty.
God bless you.
You too.
Love you. Take care.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization, and don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.